pre-COVID, and I lost 7 figures in it.
7?
Yes.
Antoine Martel,
real estate investor and entrepreneur,
owner of Martel Turnkey,
and real estate author.
It's going to take a lot more energy than finding a house that can profit $10,000 to $15,000. Those conventional rates are 6, 7, 8%. Hard money lending hasn't even moved. Like, it's a steal. We did like 650 home flips. Our biggest month, we did like 50 houses. That led into now today FlipSystem, where we teach other people how to grow their own Martel Turnkey. Is it going to be a complete pain in the ass? Yes, but you have no choice. There was a lot of big investors at the time, and I was looking at where they were investing and just like, hey, if they can do 10 deals a month, I can sure as hell do 1 deal a month.
what is the best way to get started though?
Dude, everybody in real estate's looking like, how can I make 50 grand on a flip?
What are your up and coming markets? Are you guys expanding? What markets do you like right now?
The biggest markets that we're investing in, St. Louis, Detroit, and Cleveland. Those are the top 3 markets. And I hired one of my friends from college who was working a 9-to-5 job. I said, leave your job. Let's start a wholesaling business. This is what wholesaling real estate is, and I'll be your buyer for all your deals.
Do you ever have trouble selling?
Yes.
And what do you do in that situation?
Rent it out and refinance it. I was just addicted my whole life to growing and scaling companies and selling shit to like friends at school and middle school. How can we scale this up to 50 homes per month? The only way was going to be getting off market deals is what we thought.
Some of the best advice you could give people.
Continuously test stuff. You continuously invest in yourself.
Kickin Takin Podcast, and today we are here with Antoine Martel. Antoine, thank you for being here today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And so for you guys, Antoine is a real estate investor primarily focused on fix and flip, right?
Correct.
And then you also have FlipSystem, and you have a turnkey system essentially for starting real estate investors that helps them get started to produce real estate deals, right?
Correct.
Before we go into the detail of real estate and all of that, if you could tell us your story of how you got started in real estate, who you are, and just let the audience know a little bit more about you.
So Antoine Martel, I was born in Toronto, grew up in San Francisco, went to college in Los Angeles. When I was in college, I was an entrepreneurship major. I was just addicted my whole life to growing and scaling companies and selling shit to like friends at school and middle school and in high school and in college. In college, I went to a real estate seminar for a weekend, and then from there, I became addicted to the real estate investing space. I was looking for something to do after graduating from college instead of going and working for somebody else. I really wanted to start my own business, and I was studying entrepreneurship, so I was like around all these entrepreneurs at school as well. And after I went to this real estate seminar, we learned about fixing and flipping, wholesaling, apartment buildings, all that kind of stuff. I became addicted to it. Mm-hmm. Moved all my classes from 5 to 10 p.m. so that from 9 to 5, I can just like network with people in and around LA that were investing, that were much older than me. And I would literally hit them up on a website called Bigger Pockets and say, hey, I'm a local college kid. I go to LMU. I'm looking to invest in real estate. Like, can I take you out for coffee? And I set up like 200 coffee meetings over like that 2 years that I was at that university. And I call it collecting 200 autobiographies of how people had success in the real estate game. And from there, learned that investing locally wasn't going to make sense. I would have to invest out of state. And I started, cold calling realtors, property managers, contractors, building teams out of state. Bought my first house in college with my dad's money. My dad had like $40,000 saved up. I partnered on that first deal together. And then I graduated from college shortly thereafter. Once I graduated, grew a small family portfolio, like 5 to 10 houses. And then friends and family started reaching out to us to invest in real estate. Like, how did you guys do it? Where are you guys investing? How did you guys invest in Memphis? And we started selling these houses to them to get capital back to continue to grow the family portfolio. That's what led into Martel Turnkey. And then for the last 8 years or so, have had Martel Turnkey. We did like 650 home flips. Our biggest month, we did like 50 houses. And that led into now today FlipSystem, where we teach other people how to grow their own Martel Turnkey and start their own fix and flip business in the Midwest.
I noticed that you also started by getting your original investing strategy, right, is to invest out of state.
Correct.
Right? So what was like at the time, what market were you in?
Memphis, Tennessee was the first market that we invested in.
Okay. And so you guys decided, but where were you living?
I was living in LA.
Okay. So LA was too expensive, but when you did the math, Memphis was worth it. So, I mean, what was the first off, what's the rationale of this, and then how did you get into like I'm gonna build a portfolio to that point where I'm gonna build a portfolio outside, of my state?
Gotcha. So first of all, California landlord-tenant laws were horrible. So it was hard to evict the tenant. Second thing, my dad had 40 grand. I didn't have any money. I was a college kid. So like you go on Zillow, you're like, where can I buy a house with a down payment of 40 grand? Let's say it's a $100,000 house. Where can I buy a house for 100K? Shit. You're like stuck to the Midwest, right? Or some places in the South. And so it was mostly based on the budget restrictions. Then after that, it was like, where's the best place to have an asset or to have a rental property? And it was the landlord-friendly states, which tend to be red states, that would let you, that are just better for business. It's easier to get a tenant out when they're not paying, all that kind of stuff. And I think from meeting people and having those coffee meetings, I learned a ton about what other people were looking for, like landlord-tenant laws, price to rent ratios, all this kind of stuff that they were looking at to choose their market. And I was following a lot of the big fish. There was a lot of big investors at the time, and I was looking at where they were investing and just like, hey, if they can do 10 deals a month, I can sure as hell do 1 deal a month if they can do it.
I thought it was really interesting is that you basically rocket ship your way to like over $1 million a year in like your first 5-6 years, right?
Yep.
So it was crazy. It's insane that you've done that many deals, but really the question is like, why did you stick to fix and flip instead of going to wholesale route or commercial investment or apartment buildings?
So I did. So I've done a couple hundred wholesale. So like I was doing Martel Turnkey. We were doing 20, 30 houses per month on average on a consistent basis. For 12 months straight. We were like, how can we scale this up to 50 homes per month? The only way was going to be getting off market deals is what we thought. So then I hired one of my friends from college who was working a 9-to-5 job. I said, leave your job. Let's start a wholesaling business. This is what wholesaling real estate is. And I'll be your buyer for all your deals. All you got to do is go find the seller, put it under contract. I'll buy all the houses. So we started doing that. We did a couple hundred of those deals. And that was a very challenging, difficult business because you need a lot of manpower. Many people hire VAs, which are difficult people to manage when you have 20, 30 of them. And I even did multifamily investing too. So I did try to level up in multiple different ways with apartment buildings as well. Like at one point we had like around 85 units of apartments and it was just, it was great. It just wasn't as good of a return as the fix and flips. Like, fix and flips, you can put, let's say we're flipping a house in Detroit together. We can put in $25,000-$30,000. We can make $20,000 in profit. So we're almost like doubling our money every single time. Apartments is like you put a $500K in and you make $1,000 a month.
So is it due to the speed of which the transaction is done that you think it is, or is it because with the way that you've had it and the way that you've designed your system, you just said I could get this done way easier and way faster?
Yeah, and I think it's because I built a system around the fix and flips. Most people don't have a system around fix and flips, so doing 3 big apartment building deals per year makes a lot of sense. For me, we had a system to flip 10, 20 houses every single month. And so for us, it was just as much effort to do that. Plus, it was way quicker returns. Plus, I had like diversified across 5 or 6 cities, which also had its benefit too. Because if I needed 50 grand, I could just liquidate one house. Apartment building, way harder to find a buyer. You have to find somebody that's sophisticated, can get financing. So all of those kind of things. Again, I love multifamily investing. I also got in it at a weird time. I think it's harder to find multifamily deals than it is single family. I mean, I can go find a house this weekend in the Midwest to fix and flip. Apartments took me like 9 months to find my first one. It just wasn't, I didn't get the adrenaline of like a fix and flip.
So I'm curious about then like Martel Turnkey and then FlipSystem. So how did those come about?
So Martel Turnkey we had that small family portfolio. Literally just word of mouth, people started reaching out to us. At the time, we didn't have any money left to buy more assets. So we were like, buy more houses. So we said, hey, what if we sold some of these houses, took some of the profit, use that to keep growing the business? I made a little WordPress website called Martel Family Realty, emailed out everybody in my email list, and people started coming to the website, booking calls, and that's how we sold those first couple of houses. then light bulb went off that, hey, this could be a real business here. We should turn it into Martel Turnkey and actually turn this into a legit business. So that's kind of how Martel Turnkey came about. FlipSystem came about because I was doing a lot of deals with Martel Turnkey, and I realized the more deals that I did with Martel Turnkey, the less profit that I was making on a per deal basis. So I just had way too much overhead with Martel Turnkey as I scaled up the business, and that made me want to scale back the business so I can make more profit from the company as a whole. So for example, we were doing 5 or 10 deals a month with Martel Turnkey. I was making just as much money as doing 40 to 50 houses every single month. Just because I had to have more people, more staff, all that kind of stuff to maintain that level of volume. So I scaled back Martel Turnkey, sold a bunch of those houses, and then with the cash, I was like, hey, I think I can make a software to help other people do the same thing that we had been doing with Martel Turnkey.
So like somebody's getting started, what is the step for them when they're in FlipSystem? Like how does that process work for them?
So FlipSystem essentially works. It's for people that have cash set aside and they want to invest in real estate or they're looking at it. Their local market's too expensive. They have 25 plus in their bank account to invest, and they want to invest in something without doing every single thing themselves, right? So typically their local market doesn't make sense, whatever, Phoenix or LA or Miami, New York especially, and they want to invest out of state, but they don't want to cold call realtors, cold call property managers, test them out. They don't want to look for deals. So FlipSystem helps them with all that. So we find the deals for them, we put them into the software, pre-analyze them. We then connect them to vendors on the ground. So like realtors, property managers, contractors, all that kind of stuff. We help manage the construction for them, and then we help them sell the properties as well to liquidate them.
So then what markets are you guys currently in?
Currently, we are in St. Louis, Cleveland, Detroit, Cincinnati, Akron, Toledo, so mostly Midwest.
So these are like your favorite markets, or these are just based off of your data, like, okay, this is where the growth is?
So I call them kind of like sleepy market USA. So it's the markets that like aren't growing as fast as other markets, but they're markets that are great places to invest in. They have great rent to value ratios. They have great cash flow numbers where you can go in and get into a deal in the first 90 days. So it's like markets that aren't on the top 10 list that I think people should buy and invest in now before they hit that top 10 list, which Detroit is like a prime example of that. I've been talking about Detroit for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
And now news came out that it's appreciating faster than Miami. So that's kind of what I mean, like investing in these Midwestern places where you can see a vision of that city before it hits those lists. Once it hits like the top 10 places to flip houses, like it's gone.
Yeah. So, but it's like kind of like the by the time the news, the mailman gives you a stock tip, it's too late, right?
Exactly.
When I look at considering, like real estate investing, one of the things that I look at also is like a profit margin. And I did some research in it. I remember you said that you guys actually sacrifice, or the real estate investors can actually sacrifice a little bit on profit margin, but get a better speed to deal, right? Like close. Yeah. So if you're not in that, sweet spot, it's like, okay, I could get this deal done, but if I'm not doing it, if I lower my requirements. So is this like a mindset that's going on, and like why do you have this kind of controversial thing?
Yeah. So I mean, dude, everybody in real estate's looking like, how can I make 50 grand on a flip? Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. If we do 50 grand per flip, how many flips can we do per year? Okay, cool. We can do 4. Okay, cool. That's $200,000 in profit. Cool. And how much time and effort and resources and energy is it going to take for me to find those unicorns, is what I call them. It's going to take a lot more energy than finding a house that can profit $10,000 to $15,000. Agree? Yes. Okay, cool. Then if we can find, if it's super easy for us to find those deals, the only thing limiting us from making $2 million a year, 10 times as much money, is just a volume game. Because the deals you now made the hardest thing to find in real estate the easiest thing, which is the deals. You just have to be smart enough now to figure out the rest of the shit, which is like the team on the ground, the scaling, the software, the keeping track of all your invoices, the accounting, the bullshit that nobody wants to think about becomes the thing that you can actually focus on instead of just like spending 90% of your time trying to find that magic deal, which again, I call a unicorn. Instead, remove that from the equation, have lower profit margins than everybody else to essentially beat them out on every single deal. But then contradicting that, as you scale up the monster and scale up the beast, it doesn't work. So there is a point in which it does break, but you could still get to 10 houses a month. Even if you make $10,000 per house, that's $1 million per month in profit that you can be pulling in.
Yeah. And then I also saw that you said when you start out, you start with like, let's say you want to do hard money lender or, use alternative financing. I mean, people would have the question of what is the best way to get started though? Like when you're fresh. So if you were to start fresh, I mean, what's your strategy for people who are new?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of people talk about private money, leveraging other people's money. There's a lot of real estate programs out there that will get you into the program and then pitch you on, you don't need any money, just pay us the fee and we'll show you how to raise money from other people. It's possible, 1,000,000%. You can invest in real estate without FlipSystem too. You can, I did it, right? So you can go and do it. It's just a lot more challenging to go and raise other people's money when you haven't proven yourself. Like this podcast. If I was podcast zero, you wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
It's because you had a case study. I saw what you did on other shows, on other podcasts. Same thing with real estate. So like if you can use hard money, which hard money will accept anybody, right? As long as you have a credit score and a pulse, they'll accept you and lend money on the deal. So if you go to a hard money lender, you do that first deal, you build a case study, then you can go to friends and family and whomever and be like, hey, I did this already. Here's the house next door. Want to fund it? It's like, oh, okay. Makes it a hell of a lot easier to start that conversation. So my thing is use hard money. It's available to anybody as long as you have good credit. If you don't have good credit, fix your credit. Once you get good credit, use hard money. Use hard money for a couple more deals. Is it going to be more expensive than a private money lender? Yes. Is it going to be a complete pain in the ass? Yes. But you have no choice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my route. Build the case study, and then you can start like raffling that off to friends and family, and then the money starts pouring in from there.
If you are nervous though with using hard money, is there strategies that you know about that are not directly just going to the bank?
I mean, there's like not that makes sense in my opinion.
Yeah.
You hear a lot about like seller financing or subject to deals, all that kind of stuff. Those are interesting, but I don't think you can build a legit business off of like subject to or seller financing. The reason why it's just a needle in the haystack.
It's so interesting you say that because there's a huge push for sub 2 though. So, I mean, I hear about it all the time, sub 2. So I'm curious as to why you don't like that.
But okay, tell me one big business that was built from subject to.
I mean, I'm not the expert, so. But I can assume, obviously.
No, okay, let me say this. I think it's a great way for people to get their feet wet into their first deal, 100%. And that's why I think it's grown so much popularity. You don't need credit. You don't need financing. You don't need bank financing. I just think that, again, like what I'm recommending, flip your first house with hard money. Sure, name a big house flipping business that uses hard money. Yeah, there isn't one today. So same thing with subject to. I think it's a great way for people to dip their toes into the water. Once their toes are dipped into the water, then they can continue to grow and scale from there, but doing other things. I just think subject to it's very and seller financing, which I've done seller finance deals before. It's just hard to find them. It's like trying to find a needle in the haystack. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort, which for me, I get the adrenaline of like buying a house, renovating it as, in 90 days. For me, like looking 90 days for the deal, I'd be like bored out of my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So how about with seller financing when it comes to the interest rates? You said when you're starting out, if I'm misquoting for some reason, let me know. But sure. If you're starting out, you say 12% is like a good starting point, and then as you get better, you can go down to 8% once you have your system pat.
Correct.
Like how was that process?
Sure.
How does that work?
So for me, for example, when I first did my first couple of deals, first deal was my dad funded it, right? So we split the profits. After that, we started raising money from, let's just say we went the hard money route. Hard money would charge you 3 to 5 points and 12% interest. So on a $100,000 loan, you'd pay 3 to 5K in fees plus 1% per month that you have the loan running, 12% annually. So that's what a hard money lender will charge. You can do that for the first deal. After that, typically most hard money lenders will actually reduce the interest rate as you get more deals and deals under your belt. So if you do like 3 successful deals, they'll reduce your interest rate from 12 to 10, reduce the points from 5 to 3 or 3 to 2 or whatnot. So as you scale up and as you do more and more of these things, the interest rates come down from the like hard money lender side. From the other side of it, which is raising private money, a lot of people start off with doing joint ventures. So let's say me and you wanted to do a deal together. Cool. Let's buy this house for $100K. You put 50, I put 50, renovate it for 20, you put 10, I put 10, and we'll split the profits 50-50 or whatever the case may be. And we'll go and do that deal, but I'm only making 50% of the profit and maybe I'm doing all the work. As you continue to grow and scale that, like I've gotten it down to raising private money from people for like 7%, 6% interest, which is half of what the hard money lender charges and no points. So I think but now with the interest rates going up, like people can make 5% in a high interest savings account. So it's like a different world today than it was just a couple years ago, just because of that fact.
So like, how do you suggest people move forward now, right? Versus 5 years ago? Like, what do you see differences in the market changes?
Yeah, interesting. So I still I recommend definitely investing out of state in the Midwest, single family houses to dip your toes in the water. Low capital investment, low risk, multiple exit strategies. I recommend doing your first deal, whether it's a BRRRR or fix and flip, with a hard money lender. Just think about it. Like a couple years ago, before the interest rates spiked up, the conventional interest rates were like 4 or 5%, right? And the hard money lenders were charging 10 to 12%. Dude, now those conventional rates are 6, 7, 8%. Hard money lending hasn't even moved.
Yeah.
Like it's a steal. It's a steal of light. Like they could have easily went up to 12, to like 15, 16%. They didn't. They've stayed there.
Yeah.
Even some private money lenders that we had were like, hey, this doesn't make sense anymore at 7%. Like a conventional loan is 7%, buddy. So you need to either pay us more or pay us out. So it's those kinds of things that are happening just in the last couple of years.
Now let's go directly to actually looking at the house, right? So you have a lot of subject matter expertise. You work with contractors. You basically assess the property. What are you doing as far as like your standardized operating procedure of going through and inspecting a property?
Got it. You're going to like this one. I don't do it at all.
Yeah.
So because everything's virtual, you're kind of, which is why I like it. You're forced to build the SOP, not even the SOPs, but the people on the ground that are going to build the SOPs to make sure your money and asset is protected. So for example, typically we'll put a house under contract. We will, let's say first we find a deal on the MLS. We send an email to the realtor. Realtor gets back to us. We submit an offer. We submit 5 offers to get 1 deal, essentially. Once we put that deal under contract, we will send out the contractor or the project manager and the property management company and an inspector. So we get an inspector's point of view, property manager's point of view, because they're going to tell us what it's going to rent out for, contractor or project manager to tell us how much money it takes to rent it out for this amount of money, right? So we have those 3 people walk the property. If we're getting financing, an appraiser goes. So you literally get, it's amazing. You get 4 different opinions as you're going through the property. You collect all that feedback. You look at all the data you get back, all the numbers, decide if you're going to move forward. But that's the process. It's just as soon as you get under contract, cool. What 3 or 4 people am I sending through that property to give me the intel that I need to make sure if the deal is going to make sense or not?
You were like, okay, the reason that the turnkey system is so useful is that, like, let's say you wanted to connect everybody on the deal, and you said it's not very efficient, or it doesn't work very well when you try to just put everybody into like an email chain, and just say like, hey, let's get this thing going. Do people do that?
People do that still today.
Yeah, that sounds like a very like so. Yeah, I mean,
it's archaic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is your like structure of like putting together, putting all of the pieces together? Like, what is can you drop some knowledge on
Sure.
that, you know?
So, I mean, I'll talk about it in terms of like my vision for it, because it still is a problem. Like FlipSystem doesn't solve that problem today, but like I can see a world in which if you are an out-of-state investor, which is more and more people, even the subject to or seller, all of them are doing deals across many different states, but like to conglomerate all that communication around the deal. So imagine if you guys all log into a portal together and you can all see the numbers, you can leave comments, and then you can like loop in your lender, you can loop in whatever, right into all the same like frame of reference. So there's not a bunch of emails going back and forth or phone calls or texts. So the goal is with FlipSystem, which right now it's more like property analysis, MLS integration. You still have to email data out of it, but to like loop everybody into it. And then you can have communication around a deal that you're doing right in there. You wouldn't have to email and call and text and like all these different communication styles. So that's what the goal and the vision is. We should have email coming into the system in the next couple months. That'll be a good first step so that at least the customer or the client can email through the FlipSystem portal instead of opening up Gmail or Yahoo and sending out emails about deals.
About the market trends right now, I know we talked about it, but like, what are your up and coming markets? Are you guys expanding? What markets do you like right now?
Yeah, great question. Right now, the biggest markets that we're investing in, St. Louis, Detroit, and Cleveland. Those are the top 3 markets. The reason why is just it's the most amount of volume, and there's the most amount of active listings below $150,000. So that's kind of our bread and butter: single family home, turnkey fix and flips. Below $150,000. If you just go on Zillow and you just look up houses below 100K, I mean, those places are going to light up. So those are the places that I like to invest in right now. I think Detroit is getting a lot of traction with like the media, which is not good for me. I wish nobody would. It was just a gem the last couple of years.
It's kind of like nobody moved to Florida, nobody moved to Arizona. It
exactly.
Sucks.
It's kind of like that, dude. So it's been wild the last couple of years. Like even Memphis, we don't invest there anymore. Cleveland, Ohio, like I said, is one of our big ones, but still it's like slowly going down in terms of us because the house prices have gone up so much. Like we used to buy these houses like little shacks in Memphis and for $50K. And now that same house is selling for $150 today. Yeah. And that was only from like 2017, 2018. So same in Cleveland, Ohio, these neighborhoods like Maple Heights, we used to buy them for $75K. They're worth $140, $150 now. And that was just 3 years ago. So
same with Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Phoenix market. So I'm from Phoenix, and the now the standard price is about double from 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. If you did you ever buy there?
No.
Yeah. It's you know. So like I was saying.
Yeah. Or Miami too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. With all these people moving here like me.
Yeah.
House prices have definitely
bringing
gone
the
up.
price up.
I know.
Like right now, looking toward the future, a common question would be like, okay, what about interest rates? When you get to 2025, 2026, are you predicting that there's going to be a better interest rate, or what's like a smart strategy to hedge for inflation?
I think the interest rates are going to probably just maintain for this year. So I think out of state right now, the reason I say out of state is because it depends on like the loan amount. But for like an investment property you're buying in the Midwest, the interest rates right now are around 7%, 7.25 for a $100,000 loan-ish. I think it's going to be anything from 6 to 8%, so right in that ballpark for the rest of the year. I mean, a great strategy right now, if people are just like waiting to figure out what the hell they want to do, and I keep preaching this, which is kind of, I'm a real estate guy, but is to put your money into just like a high interest savings account.
Yeah.
And just like I opened up one with Marcus.com and like I make 5.5 or 5% on my money every single month.
It's like basically used to be CD money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting it, and then people think you have to lock in the money for like 12 months. No, you don't. It's literally a savings account. So if you're waiting to invest in real estate or the stock market, just put your money there. Like get it out of your Bank of America or Chase and just put it in that thing.
If you know what to do, right?
Yeah,
at least
exactly.
put it somewhere.
Exactly. Because I moved a ton of money over there, and I'm like, wow, my rent is paid now. Like, it's crazy. So I really like that game and approach. Because, dude, people used to lend me money and take risk investing in real estate for 8%. You can get 5 with no risk, and it's not going to last forever. So, like, before when it was 2%, it's like, get that, just buy something. Yeah. But now it's it's such a weird environment that we're in.
Yeah, it is. And then also looking at the way that you take your current investment, and if you think about it, do you want to actually just keep, because with your system, if you're flipping that fast, I don't know if interest really is playing as much of a role, right?
If you're flipping it quick.
Yeah. So how do you manage that timeline, right? Like,
good question. So this really caught us off guard when the interest rates were spiking. So for example, like our method is we buy the house, renovate it, rent it out, and then sell it to a turnkey buyer. Okay, so when we buy that thing, we got to make sure that it works for the turnkey buyer on the back end. Cool. That turnkey buyer is going to get an interest rate of what? Because that's a variable, right? So that first like couple months when the interest rates were spiking, like when it went from 4 to 6 and like that, dude, we were like, what are we going to do? With, like, we just bought 30 houses, 20 houses, and like the numbers are not going to work for the end client. We ended up making it work where we would actually just refinance out the house and just make pretty much break even on the thing. But it is super important when you are running your numbers, especially for our business model, to take into account what the interest rate is going to be or what you think it could be. So obviously nobody has a crystal ball, but what we always recommend if you're doing that like turnkey fix and flip model is to look at like in 3 or 6 months where you think the interest rates will meet. Again, nobody has a crystal ball, but if it's 7.5 today, let's put 7.75 or let's put 8. Does a deal still pencil out today? If it does, great, buy it. Like if the interest rates go up, okay, whatever, we can find something else to do with the deal. But yeah, that was a big thing as the interest rates were spiking up, was like, because they hadn't risen in, I don't know how many years, many years, decades that they hadn't risen. They've been at 3%. Oh, yeah, spiked up.
Was that the first? That's probably the first time you had to deal with that problem.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. So first time for a lot of people.
Yeah. So like, and going into that, what was your analysis kind of that situation? Like, how did you handle it?
So how do we handle it? We went back through every single deal that we bought that we knew we were going to have to change the exit strategy on. Some of them we sold vacant, which is something we never really did, which was more like a retail fix and flip. Some of them we just had to increase the rent. So like instead of renting it out for $1,100 and getting tenant in a week, let's rent it for $1,200 and wait 30 days to get a tenant. You see what I mean? So we just finessed every single deal that we possibly could. But you're right. Like that's why I'm a proponent when people are getting started to do a quick deal. Yeah. Like for your first deal, do a $10,000 renovation, $20,000 renovation, buy it, renovate it for 2-3 weeks, put a tenant in place, try to sell it, can't sell it, refinance it. Like, let's get in and out of this thing to build the case study, first of all, but then also to take the least amount of risk with time. Because especially, we've all, got screwed over with the interest rates coming up. And, if that were to happen again, the shorter your deal time horizon, the better. So
I also noticed you had a lawsuit. So you said you were, and this might have been a while ago, but you said you were dealing with some shade, in the business, right? As you deal with some shady stuff, what have you run into in this business? Dude. I'm curious.
I don't know if I can say it.
Yeah, if you're not allowed
lawsuit. How did you find out about that?
You talked about it.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, you talked about it. You said it on another show.
I did?
Yeah. Yeah, but you said it was a situation in which you were it was in the past, right? So are you going through another one?
No. Yeah, it's the same one, but it's kind of like...
Has it gotten bigger? Or?
Okay, well, I'll give you like very high level stuff that I can say. I'm just crazy you found that shit. Jesus Christ. Okay, so yeah, we're still dealing with a lawsuit. And I think that taught me a valuable lesson as well. Essentially what happened is my girlfriend's parents forged her signature on warranty deeds and quitclaim deeds and stole her houses that she had. So they went to a notary and forged her signature, pretending to be her.
Oh, okay.
Sent the houses to their name.
Okay.
And they pretty much took her entity. Yeah. They said, oh, this is a warranty deed. It was a fake warranty deed. They took the LLC, which owned the assets. Then they did a quitclaim deed, sending the houses from them to the mother's name. And then there was a whole, all of that is public. That's why I can say that.
Yeah.
All of that is public. You can look up the court records for it.
Right,
I encourage you to. And so there was a lot of lawsuits going back and forth with that kind of stuff. And then they started messing with us, which again is like a current legal process that's in action. So I can't talk about that one.
Yeah.
But it was just crazy to me how the whole entire system is built on trust. Like, dude, you have let's say you have an LLC. I can go walk into whatever. Here's my operating agreement for my LLC, incorporated in Arizona. I'm this guy. I'm the owner of the LLC. Dude, there's nothing else. Like,
well, they shouldn't be doing that, right? Like, it shouldn't be, but there's cases in which is still highly, illegal.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's still very illegal.
Hoping that anybody who hears that, like getting ideas, is gonna say, hey, that's probably not a good idea.
It's very illegal. Yeah. I mean, it was stealing somebody's business and pretending to be them. So it's identity theft, it's fraud, it's stealing an asset over $20,000. A lot of things. That are wrong with it, but it's the whole entire LLC or business system, because especially with like the Secretary of State of Arizona or Wyoming or California, like you can go file shit online and be like, transfer ownership to the you can go file. There's no verification, there's no signature, there's nothing. Yeah. So it was very interesting to learn the hard way that like everybody should get this like credit score checker or blocker, so like nobody can use your credit, or like an LLC check to make sure nobody's messing with your entities online.
And that does bring me into my next thing. It's like, so what are some of the common mistakes you see people making early on?
Yeah, that's definitely not one of them. Yeah. But I mean, common mistakes early on.
Or your mistakes you made early on, and you learned the most from.
I mean, I think the biggest mistake that I'm seeing people making today is just not taking action. Just like talking about it and like getting over that fear and getting over that hump of doing it. I just don't see enough people taking the right action. That's the biggest thing. Like, dude, there's so many people in America that we talk to every single day. We have tons of consults every single day, 100 consults a day with people that want to invest in real estate. And it's like, a sliver of them take any act. Not saying that, oh, you got to join FlipSystem or buy turnkey rental from me. It's like, cool, don't do that. But like, go start wholesaling or try it out or test this. Or like, people are not testing enough stuff, especially when they say they want to leave their job and like they want to do something better or make more money. And then it's like, cool, try it.
Yeah, but they're not willing to invest their nest egg, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's their baby to them. But it's like, dude, you're not investing in something random. You're investing in real estate. Yeah. You're still going to get a resale value.
Yeah. And not even that, like, I think even just investing in people's education or themselves, like, I think like people really look at themselves as not as an investment. Yeah. Like, no, I'm not going to go to this seminar. Like, that's $600. Like, it's like, yeah, but you could learn something. We were just on a podcast before this, and like this guy drove down from Fort Lauderdale, and he was like, man, this one little thing was just worth the drive or worth the trip today or whatever. So you have to like learn how to invest in yourself, and you're not going to see an ROI on that per se, on that course, or on going to that event or seminar, or networking event is another thing too. Like, people just don't do enough, I feel like, in investing and growing themselves.
So what about your gold tidbits of information? Like, drop some knowledge on the audience right now, like some stuff that people don't know, and stuff that you already teach, right? Or you may have put in videos, but just like, what are some of the things that people should know?
Yeah, I think that people should literally take a piece of paper, put it down on a desk, and write like, how much money do I have? What kind of relationships do I have? What I want to do? And, how much time do I have to invest in this? Like, put everything down on a piece of paper and kind of look at, like, if it's real estate, like, okay, cool, fixing and flipping, wholesaling, apartment buildings, if real estate's what you want to get into, right? Like, cool, how much money does wholesaling take and how much time does it take? Cool, it takes a shitload of time, very little capital. Yeah. Right? So, like, does that fit you? Doing ground up apartment building construction takes a shitload of money, shitload of connections, and a ton of time and a team as well. Do you have those, Susie? No, you don't. So like, I think people just try to like, no, I don't want to be a wholesaler, I'm better than that. Or I don't want to buy a house in Memphis, I'm better than that. I want to do ground up construction or new construction or build luxury villas in Tulum. It's like, yeah, but you don't have the resources right now to even begin doing that. So I always recommend that people just like sit down and like get rid of the ego and just like look at what you do have in terms of time and energy and resources and capital, and then relationships as well. Because I think a lot of people have, 2 kids, a wife, a dog, and then they're like, I'm going to do wholesaling. It's like, dude, you have no time at all to do wholesaling, and you have $300,000 in the bank. What do you think? Like, you should be buying just pure rental properties or do something that you like.
So let's say, there is a starting point at which somebody should be looking at wholesaling. What number do they need to have? Or not wholesaling, sorry, investing.
Investing?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to start investing, I would recommend once you get to that $25K kind of mark.
Okay.
And that's for like investing in the cheapest places in America, $25,000.
Yeah. And then you think that'll take them so if they have that amount, they'll be able to go far in the specific markets you've mentioned. So again, what states are you looking at again?
Michigan, Ohio, Missouri, all the Midwestern states are
really. And do you think that those are underrated kind of like, so what about in terms of like the community? What demographic research are you doing in terms of that?
For the markets, we lead that up to a lot of the property management and what they think. So for example, we'll go into a Detroit, Michigan, and we'll call a property manager. We manage 1,000 doors in Detroit. All right. Like, where's the best place to invest? Where do you see the lowest evictions? Where do you see the houses renting out the fastest?
Yeah.
Where are your investors making the most? Like, dude, I don't need to do any of that shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to build I'm a big proponent of like making win-win scenarios. We can both make a shitload of money together.
Yeah.
But leveraging somebody that grew up in Detroit, knows every single contractor, every insurance guy, every lender. He goes to all the networking events. Cool. You're my guy. Yeah. I'll give you whatever, X amount of dollars to do this thing or do this thing with me or work with me, and I'll be the easiest client ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's what has helped me grow so fast in that space, was just like being super easy to work with and willing to share in the upside.
It does sound like that is like a pretty good secret, honestly. It's like, so when you find these people to partner with, and so like in what capacity,
So all right, let's say we go to a property management company that has like 500 doors. Dude, the only thing a property management company wants is more doors so they can make more of the rental income. And they want houses that they can rent out, so they get a lease up fee. So they get a lease up fee, they get rent every single month. That's what we're looking for with the easiest clients ever. So like when I call and I say those kinds of things, they already see the dollar signs. And now I can ask them, once I get in the door with them, cool, do you have, for me to be the best client ever, I need contractors, I need insurance companies, title companies, all that kind of stuff. Can you help me out with those? And then I'll help you grow your business and be the best, easiest client that you've ever had. So it's that's what I mean, win-win. Like, you help scratch my back here, I'm only going to use you. I'm not going to use any other property management company, not going to use any other realtor. I'm just going to go 100% of my business to you. In other places, we're doing 5 deals a month. I can do the same or more with you. Yeah.
And it's so I noticed you're a big proponent of the leverage, right? Yeah. It's really like a systems and leverage game for you.
Yeah.
And so have you always been like that? You analytical, break down the math, right? So let's break down the math of a deal, cash to close, everything, and what's your mind frame? How do you assess that?
Sure. So I am very analytical for sure.
Yeah.
Everything's a number, I guess. The average investment, let's say we wanted to get into a house in Detroit again, it would be like $25,000. We would buy it for $80,000. We'd renovate it for $25,000. We get a hard money lender. We come up with $25K-ish, $20,000, and then we would sell that house and make like a $15,000 profit. And that all would happen within 4 months.
Okay.
So you $25K in, you get $15K in profit plus the $25K. That's $40,000 out. So $25K in, $40K out in 4 months. And then now it's just like, how can I if you only have started with $25K, now take 40. Now I can do 1 and keep some cash in the bank. Now after that one's done, I can scale to 2, scale to 4, scale to
So how are you leveraging, I'm curious for tax reasons. So how do you leverage the sale of a property, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one. For the short-term capital gains, short-term fix and flips, it's really, really hard to leverage like 1031 exchange or bonus depreciation, which you can't do unless you're going to hold the asset. So what we have done is we would kind of like, we'd flip a ton of houses from January to November. December, we would buy a ton of houses, do a bonus depreciation, or buy an apartment building. That's why we got into the apartment building game, where we would buy an apartment building for $1 million. We would get like a $400,000 write-off, and then like that knocked off a huge chunk of the profit of like the taxes that we were going to pay. So then you would pay very little taxes. So that's how we would kind of leverage like our same business model, and whether it's like just at the end of the year, cool, we're going to buy a ton of these. Just buy them turnkey or buy them and just hold on to them. Then we can do a bonus depreciation, write off a ton of that money.
And then do you have any investment strategy in new builds or no?
New builds, I've never really dabbled with.
Yeah.
Just permitting process, way too long of a process of construction.
Yeah.
And then in my markets that I invest in, that's not popular.
Yeah.
In Cleveland, Ohio, it's starting to get there. Cincinnati, like those markets, once they go from like 100 to 180, 200,000, it starts to make sense to build. But until that point, it doesn't make any sense to build. So like, dude, you can go, all right, in Cincinnati, we build a house that's 2,000 square feet. And maybe it costs like 180 or 150 per square foot. I don't know the math on that, but it costs you like 200 grand to build this house when I can buy the house next door for 130 fully renovated.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what the problem is in these markets. You can buy current inventory way less than what it costs to build it.
And then how about going to existing sellers, right? Like, so if you're calling through, like a lot of times in wholesale, right? People look at the way to automate everything.
Yeah.
Right. What are some of the challenges you face in fix and flipping?
For automating it?
Yeah, and also it's just kind of like things are changing so quickly with technology.
Okay.
You know?
Like the laws?
Yeah.
Because wholesalers deal with a lot of bullshit that fix and flippers don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like you're probably like talking about SMS or like, because they just shut down, like wholesalers weren't allowed to do mass texting.
Yeah, the A2P authentication. And
they're not allowed to do, and then they did like DH10 or something like that, where you had to verify all your phone numbers. And like, dude, if once your LLC has a bad phone number that they flag your whole EIN.
Yeah.
So you can't even go and get another phone number. So fix and flippers don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
The reason why is we deal with a lot of realtors, and realtors are all licensed. Everything's above board. When you start going direct to seller and do mass marketing in general, without using like a platform like Facebook or Instagram or Meta or whatever, then you run into a lot of problems with the do not call list and list scrubbing and all that kind of shit.
Yeah. So there's a lot of emphasis on seller financing right now. I mean, do you think that people are setting themselves up for failure by paying way over purchase price right now, and then later on kind of getting screwed on the deal? Like, what is going on there?
Yeah, 100%. So I think a lot of people, when they're trying to find the needle in the haystack, kind of like what we talked about, the seller financing deal, they don't have much money, so they don't have much to offer to the seller. The only thing they can offer to the seller is paying above the list price or paying above the value of the house. So if a house today is worth $100,000, I can go to, you're selling me the house for $100K. You want to do seller financing? You want me to put some money down? I'll say, no, thank you, but I'll give you $125,000. So I'm going to overpay for the property so that I don't have to come up with any money. The problem is the house is worth 100. I just paid 125 and I have 100% loan to value. So I'm making breadcrumbs. I'm making 50, 100, whatever, $300 a month if I'm lucky. And I have to wait for that house to appreciate all the way past that point before I have any equity. So sure, I got into a deal with no money. I make a little bit of money. Yeah, it sounds great, but I have to wait for that house to appreciate from 100 all the way past 125 before I can do anything with that deal. So it's just like we talked about, time horizon. The great thing about fix and flips is that they're short time horizons, right? Like if you can go and make a 1% return in the next 30 days, that's pretty damn good. That's 12% annualized.
Yeah.
With these kinds of deals, the seller financing deals where you're assuming these loans, you have to wait for that house to appreciate, which could take a ton of time. You don't know what's going to happen, and you have no equity to leverage, to refi, to get out of that deal if, shit were to hit the fan.
Is that something that you would say is the same across all markets though? Like,
Yeah. People are doing it in all markets, and I don't think it's the right, it's never the right strategy to get in, to force yourself. Remember I talked about like laying everything out on a piece of paper? Like you're trying to do something that doesn't fit, and you're getting into a deal with none of your own cash. It just like sounds great on paper, but really like deep below, you could be really screwing yourself in the next 3 years or 5 years if that house doesn't appreciate, if there's maintenance expenses or HVAC blows up. Like you're liable, but you don't have any money. So you just like put yourself to be a real estate investor and owner of this deal, but you don't have any capital. You can't replace anything. You don't have the cash, and you're not liquid enough to be a real estate owner.
What do you suggest for like looking at property green flag? I want to do green flags and red flags right now. Because I think it'll be make a great reel. But green flags and red flags in real estate, go.
Green flags in real estate, cash flow positive, multiple exit strategies, landlord friendly state. Red flags,
San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco, LA. Well, I guess kind of like the opposite. Red flags when you're investing in real estate would be a tenant friendly state. Would be one exit strategy, like imagine, or whatever. We'll get into that later. But tenant friendly state, one exit strategy, and then where you're like putting all your eggs in one basket. So you have $300K, you're putting $300K into a deal in a tenant friendly place, and it has one exit strategy. It's a fix and flip. So those are my green flags and red flags for real estate.
Yeah. What were you going to get into? Because you were just about to say something.
Yeah. I think it was around
exit strategies,
right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, let's say we're building a ground up construction house in Miami Beach, right? It's a $5 million deal. We're going to buy the land for $5 million, build the house for $5 million. We're all in for $10 million. Cool. What exit strategies do we have on that to make money?
Yeah.
Airbnb, maybe, but probably not. Rent it out.
What about commercial though?
Commercial is a little bit different. Do you mean commercial like apartment buildings?
Mixed use. You could do a mixed use.
Okay, mixed use.
Yeah.
Are we building it from scratch or buying it?
Building it.
Building it from scratch.
Would you never do it?
Okay, so here's the thing with mixed use. Most of the guys that raise money to do mixed use, most of the guys that do mixed use construction ground up raise money to do so. In order to get out of that, they have to do time it perfectly to where they can refinance it and pay off the investor. Most people in that space are either builders and developers or Grant Cardone asset buyers.
Yeah.
So most guys don't do both. Most of them don't I'm going to build this and then hold it for a long time. Most of them actually just build it, sell it, take the profit, and they go find the next thing because that's what they're really, really good at.
Yeah.
So they would only have one exit strategy. Sure, you could argue that they had two because they can hold it themselves and whatever, but they don't have I guess they do have multiple exit strategies, but it's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen for those deals, and a lot of people can't take that big of a bite when they first get into the game.
Let's say, let's talk about a more established investor.
Yeah.
In what case, because I am curious, and I'll say I do have a personal interest in this conversation.
Yeah.
So if the new build is we're looking at sort of like a shopping, mini shopping center type of situation. I guess I'm just kind of personally asking this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what is your suggestion for that? Because if they want to raise money, or if they want to, let's say there is a deep pocket, how would you navigate a deal like that?
Okay, so you're looking to buy.
Yeah.
Tell me what's the details. You're
currently
looking to buy,
own the land.
You own the land.
Yes. Currently own the land.
Vacant land.
Gonna need demolition.
Okay, demo. Okay.
But it's a demo, but some of it is already being rented. It's gonna be reinvested into that, and then grown into a essentially there's another mixed use across the street. So it's kind of like use case.
Okay.
Same area.
Yeah.
Pretty good vacancy. I mean, not vacancy. Pretty good occupancy.
Sure.
Because what is the idea behind occupancy and and profitability. Like a lot of people are like houses. I say I'm asking two questions, so I'll stick to this one first.
Sure.
But afterwards, if you could do part one, just the situation, and then because if I'm in front of an expert, I'm gonna ask. And part two is the occupancy ever like if you're gonna fix and flip and you want to do it and you do have the property for too long, what do you do in that situation?
Okay, got it.
You can answer it backwards if you prefer.
So the second question is, if you had a fix and flip and
if you're having trouble selling it, like do you ever have trouble selling it?
Yes.
And what do you do in that situation?
Rent it out and refinance it.
Okay. So can you give me like an example of like something you've done like that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's say we're investing in Detroit. We buy a house for $100K, renovate for $25, one for $125. It's worth $150. Before listing it for rent, the property manager's like, hey, or whatever. The realtor says, hey, I can actually list this for $180. Dude, I'm in for $125. I can make a killing on this thing. I only put $20,000 in the deal. I can walk away with $70. So I say, okay, sure. Let's try to list it for $180 on the MLS. We try to list it on the MLS. We list it for 30 days. No buyers, no bites, nothing. I have two options: reduce the sales price or move on to the next investment strategy. The next strategy would be to find a tenant. So I call property management. Hey, I want to get a tenant in this place. Cool. 2 weeks later, we get a tenant. They move in 2 weeks after that. So 4 weeks, we have a tenant paying. Cool. Now, like whatever monthly cost that I have, the hard money loan, whatever it may be, is being paid by the tenant. And now I have another option to sell. I can sell it now as a turnkey rental, just like my business, or I can refinance it. So I can go to a bank or go to the same bank and turn that money out. So you see, like, no matter where the deal goes, I have a way to navigate it to completion or to success.
And then as far as the other question,
sure.
Like how do you suggest, let's say personal, but still, how do you raise, how would you do that deal?
Sure. Are you going to demo what's currently there even though something is occupied, or are you going to just...
Definitely eventually going to demo it. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And then you have like a clone across the street, right?
Yes.
Are you interested in just purely selling the land, or do you want to actually do the development of it?
Do the development and then probably put... just have tenants, because it's going to be a family thing.
Okay.
Like, is that incentive enough to want, like, how would you do it? One, and then two, is there incentive enough to
how
keep
much
that?
money do I have?
$1 million cash, but you need six or seven for the build.
Okay, you have two options. One is you just find a construction lender to do the construction. Then you find a construction company to do the design and build, the blah, blah, blah. Again, I've never done this before, but you'd find somebody to do the design and build, to actually go and build it, be a 12 or 18 month project, and you would find a lender. So since this person has cash, $1 million, you can do it.
But what point at which would you not be able to? Like $500,000 or? Because right now the requirement, I think, is like, what do they want down? Like 60, like nowadays they want like 60% or something.
60%. I would say it the other way. I would say you probably need like 40%.
Maybe 40, yeah.
You can also do it you can think about it like in phases, or like, do you want to manage investor relationships? Do you want to go and raise money? Do you want to have none of that stress and none of that headache and use your own cash? Do you want to do the deal in sequences? So you do like one, because it sounds like you can probably in this instance, like build little pieces of it at a time. It may look weird as well, but that's what you would have to debate against, is like, also, I would recommend going and talking to some local credit unions, local banks. I'm assuming the building is close to where you live-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Like credit unions, local banks love that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Because they only will lend to you guys.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem. I live in Miami. I invest all across the Midwest. I call a local bank. They're like, cool, what's your address? I'm like, I live in Miami. Fuck off. They won't give you any kind of loan or help you. They literally have money set aside just to lend to people that are local to that community, because their goal is to make the community better and thrive, etc.
Yeah.
So it depends a lot on you.
Yeah.
And do you have somebody that can put the money up? Do you want to deal with that person? If you have the money, I would just start talking to banks, to be honest.
Yeah.
Be like, I have this is what I want to do. Can you help me? Yes or no? Or you can give them just like a sweet deal. You may even through those conversations meet somebody that can actually put up the equity. There are some, like, real estate development companies that actually will put up the equity and the debt. So like a family office.
Yeah.
So like you say, I'll contribute $500,000. I'll keep $500,000 in the bank just for reserves. I want you guys to come up with the equity and the debt and go find the debt and let's do this project together. And I'm okay with, taking giving you guys a huge chunk of the profits.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So what we like to do is we like to get your advice for the audience, cameras here, and just, best, it could be life advice. It could be some things that you've learned over your journey. I mean, you've done over, I don't know if at this point, if it's 600 or 1,000 deals,
Yep.
But you've done, in the thousands or whatever, but a lot of deals, right?
Yeah.
And so, in this whole, growing your business and doing this and your journey, what's some of the best advice you could give people?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the different points today that I recommend, which first is like taking that piece of paper and putting it down and looking at all your resources, looking at what you can afford to do, not like what you want to do. Because you can always start with wholesaling. You go to a networking event or you get on a podcast like this, and then you meet other people in the room, and then they're doing what you really want to do, but at least you're in the game. So like my thing is just look at your resources, get into the real estate game if that's what you're trying to do with the real estate advice. Other than that, I think a lot of people just taking action, which is something else that we talked about today. Like even if that action is putting $20,000 or doing a joint venture with a buddy and putting $5,000 into this thing and $10,000 here, like the amount of money I've lost on shit is insane. I had a trucking company pre-COVID and I lost 7 figures in it.
7?
Yes.
7?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was something that we tried to do and hired a bunch of people, hired a bunch of truckers, bought 6-7 trucks, and we lost a shitload of money. But the thing is, I learned a ton, and I think you just continuously test stuff. You continuously invest in yourself. So that would be my advice. A lot of it's what we talked about today.
Awesome. And so if you guys want to find Antoine, the best way to get a hold of you is?
Best place to get a hold of me is Instagram, at Martel Antoine. Feel free to DM me. I respond to almost everybody.
And then also on YouTube?
YouTube as well. Just same thing, Martel Antoine. You can find me pretty much anywhere.
Yep. And then also check out FlipSystem and Turnkey.
Martel,
Martel.
FlipSystem.com and MartelTurnkey.com as well.
Awesome. All right, you guys, kicking ass, taking names with Antoine Martel. We appreciate you.